Hello everyone, this is Time Bunny. Now this video is going to be probably a little bit more serious compared to what I generally do. So I know, generally speaking, my channel tends to be a bit light-hearted and a bit of fun, but this is, yeah, I think today is going to be more of a, I'm going to be a little bit more serious today. So, but anyway, this is, as the title suggests, this is me. I don't want to say this is a reaction video as such, because that probably sounds a bit wrong, but it's going to be more sort of like me discussing my feelings and such like towards the recent verdict that the murder charge against Superfly Jimmy Snuka being dropped. So, but right, first of all, before I go too far into this, I'm going to do a bit of a recap on basically what's been happening, because I appreciate there might be people out there who are maybe sort of relatively new wrestling fans, or you know, you might be quite young, you know, sort of, so you may not necessarily be sort of like aware of what's going on, or it could be that maybe like myself, you've maybe been out of the wrestling loop for a couple of years, so maybe you're still catching up on everything that's been going on. So this is going to be like I'll try and keep this like recap brief. So basically what happened is, back in 1983, Jimmy Snuka's then girlfriend Nancy Argentino basically died of head injuries, and because Jimmy Snuka was the one who was like with her at the time, and he was the one that called 911 to get the ambulance to like come to assist her. Basically, he became a person of interest as a result. I think when he was questioned at the time, he said that basically him and Nancy were... Basically, I think they were just sort of like, kind of like, he claims they were sort of like having like a bit of a clown around. They were sort of messing about, having a bit of a play wrestle, when she basically fell and basically hit her head and ended up with the head injuries that she did. But I think it was a case of, at the time, due to whatever reasons, the police decided to not investigate Jimmy Snuka any further. It's like, yes, he was a person of interest for a while, but basically, I think nothing ever came of it, pretty much. And there's also, I think, these like theories going around that Vince McMahon was involved, and he like got the police to sort of like not press charges, and or something to that effect. So, and it wasn't until 2015, so quite a big gap, it wasn't until 2015 that Jimmy Snuka was actually finally arrested for on a charge of third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter, due to the fact that I think some new evidence had been brought forward. So obviously it wasn't until then that something was, you know, finally done, as it were. But it was, I think it was fairly recently, in the last sort of couple of weeks. It was either, I think there was a lot of talk towards the end of last year, 2016, that, you know, the case probably wasn't going to go to court, and Jimmy Snuka wasn't going to be asked to come and testify, due to the fact that he now has, I think, like quite a severe onset of dementia now, and has a lot of sort of like ill effects on knocking on with that, as it were. And I think it was fairly recently, like the last couple of weeks. I think it was right on the end of last year, I think, coming into the new year. Can't quite remember now. It was the last sort of couple of weeks that I think the charges were finally dropped on the basis of Jimmy Snuka's rapidly deteriorating health. And I think last I read up, it was a case of he's now in a hospice, and apparently literally only has months to live now. So that is basically a bit of a sort of like, well, I've tried to sort of do more the highlights of what's happened, so that people have a grasp of pretty much what's been happening, if like you haven't been in the wrestling loop, or you're a new fan, or you might be quite a young fan, perhaps didn't know the circumstances, as it were. But I think there is a lot of information out there on the interwebs, so if you perhaps wanted to go and do a bit of your own research, maybe get a bit more information and find out what's been going on, then it's out there. If I remember, I will try and maybe add a few links onto my video, perhaps in the description or somewhere on the screen, just so that, if you want, as I said, if you want to go maybe look for yourself and do a bit of research, you by all means can. So that's basically what I did, because I obviously wanted to get a bit of information for this video. So, and it's a case of now to the sort of crux of the video, sort of like, how do I feel about this situation? So it's like, it's a difficult one, if I'm honest, because, ultimately none of us were there on the day in 1983 when this incident happened. So, it could be that perhaps it was a bit of innocent horseplay that unfortunately got out of hand and Nancy died as a result, or it could be that maybe there was more to it, and maybe Jimmy Snuka was somehow like more seriously involved, if that makes sense, and maybe he did deliberately do something that caused, her injuries and death. So it's like, I suppose it's a bit like the whole Chris Benoit with his family and the whole murder-suicide thing. No one's probably going to really know what happened on that day, apart from the people involved, as it were. So it's like, it's a bit like, it's difficult, because I don't want to sort of like automatically jump to the conclusion that he deliberately killed her, because it's like, I don't have access to all the evidence. I can literally only go on what I read on the internet, and that's not always 100% true, because people can easily lie or fabricate things just to make a certain person look bad. So it's like, I mean, I'm not saying that he wasn't there at all and he wasn't involved, because it was like, obviously I think he was there on the obviously he was actually there on the day with her, because it's like I think he pretty much said that, like, yes, I was with her, we were dicking around, she fell over, sort of thing. So it was like, yeah, so he was definitely there. I can't say that he was like not guilty of that, but it was like, do I think the whole thing with him having the dementia was 100% true? It's like, I'm not going to deny the fact that he may have dementia. Again, I'm not his doctor, I don't know. But I think what irked me more is apparently last year, when this was all going on and he supposedly had like dementia and everything else, he was still going to conventions and doing appearances and that. And I do feel a little bit like, mate, if you're like too ill to go to court, which is something that's quite serious, then, should you really be doing conventions, Shouldn't you be worrying more about, like, the court case and getting that out of the way kind of thing? So it's that kind of got to me a little bit, because I did feel a little bit like it's not really fair to claim that you're too ill to do one thing and then you're suddenly well enough to do something else, It's a bit like, no. I mean, fair enough, if people disagree with me on that one, by all means just say. I'm not going to stand here and be like, oh, my opinion's right and you're wrong kind of thing, because everyone has a different opinion. But it's just, I do feel a little bit like, don't try and pull the whole I'm too ill with dementia card to get out of one thing and then go and do something else, That's kind of how I feel a bit like about it. Especially as dementia is like a really horrible disease, and considering I've worked as a carer for briefly for a few months, it's like, I've seen how horrible dementia can be, and that's just with people in like the more earlier stages with it, and it's like they can barely fend for themselves, let alone go and, sort of like go to court or attend conventions or do this or do that, It's a case of like, I do feel a little bit like if it was a case of like his lawyers were playing on it, it's like that's kind of a dickish thing to do, Sort of like, don't claim that your client's too ill to go to court, but then be like, oh yes, fine, go and do conventions, It's like, no, you're either too ill to do both or you're well enough to do both, you know. You can't kind of pick and choose when your dementia is too bad to do things, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like... So as you can tell, I kind of have mixed feelings about this whole thing, you know. Whether I think he actually deliberately murdered her or not, or whether I think it was genuinely an accident, I don't know. I mean, it's just, from what I can sort of gather information-wise, I'm kind of leaning more towards it possibly may have been just two people dicking around, having a bit of a laugh, and then unfortunately it just went way out of hand and sadly Nancy died. You know, it's like, these things can happen, you know, sadly, you know, and it's just that I think because it was left so long, shit's been allowed to happen, and now it's just got, I think, further out of hand than maybe it should have done. I mean, it's just, I mean, as I said, you know, if people maybe have any kind of information or evidence or that they want to tell me, to say like, I think like it was a deliberate murder, or, you know, I disagree with you because blah blah blah, then, you know, as I say, put your opinions in the comment, put any like links you want in the comments, you know, so that I can have a look, have a read, and then maybe like perhaps in the future I might do maybe like a little update video to maybe cover like any points I wish to add. But it's just, that's how I kind of feel that possibly it might have been more of a shit got out of hand, and then because nothing was done about it, because of obviously Jimmy Snuka being like such a massive star at the time, it's like basically nobody wins now, because, you know, Nancy's dead, you know, Jimmy Snuka, whether he did it on purpose or not, is basically not going to have any ramifications now. You know, he's like not going to be punished or not punished or whatever now, because basically it's been all thrown out of court. So it's like nobody's really won in this situation, you know. Nancy Argentino's family aren't going to get any closure. I think, you know, Jimmy Snuka's family are always going to probably have this hanging over them now. Like the whole, you know, especially with, so like his kids and that, like they're probably going to have the whole, you know, oh, your dad's a murderer who got away with it kind of thing, you know. And, you know, it's a case of all the fans that looked up to him are probably going to be like, you know, really disgusted, because they're going to feel like, you know, oh, all this shit happened and nothing was done about it sort of thing, you know. So I think that's kind of how I feel more, really. It's like kind of mixed feelings, and basically more, it's sad because there was no real winners or losers. Basically everyone's kind of lost. So yeah, it sucks, really does. But anyway, I am going to leave it here, and hopefully my future videos will be a little bit more cheerful. But I think it's just nice to discuss something a bit more sensible and serious every now and again. And it's just, I wanted to have a bit of a chat about it and talk about what I think and feel about the situation. So, but as I said, by all means, you know, feel free to comment your feelings about it in the comments section. But all I ask is be nice to everybody, because, you know, everybody has a different opinion, and, you know, I'm all for everyone have different opinions, but please just, all I ask is keep it respectful. I'm all for debates, and I'm all for people agreeing to disagree, but just, you know, if things start getting nasty and out of hand, I will like have to resort to blocking people or disabling comments if it comes to that, so, which I don't want to do, because, you know, I want people to have the freedom to sort of debate and discuss things and stuff like that. So, and this video is near on 15 minutes now, so well, it's probably going to be past that by the time I do my editing and add all my other bits on. So I am going to end here, and thank you for watching, and let's hope my future videos are a bit more cheerful. Okay, bye.